Do we have Larry?
There
We
he
were
is.
Oh, there he is.
Just promote him.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right, so this will be our first time with the new audio system. So Bray, be ready to step in if something goes awry. Not that it
I'll
will.
try.
Okay, so it's now 5 o'clock and the June meeting of the Conservation Commission is so impaneled. Let's get right to the roll call. And let's start at I guess we're sitting in our regular spots. We'll start with Tom on the far back.
Tom Olson, member.
Giselle Malloy, member. Kristen Distante, member.
Ray Rafferty, vice chair.
Michelle Fitzpatrick, secretary.
Larry Dunn chair, and Ann will not be joining us today. So the first item of business is we have 3 minutes to approve. They were kind of to the first edition of the agenda, and then the other one came out a little later. So do I have a motion on those agendas, either singularly or
I move we
collectively?
accept the minutes as for April 7th, May 5th, and May 12th as presented.
I'll second.
All right, it's been seconded. Any discussions or addendums, amendments, or corrections? All right, hearing none, so moved, and without objection, all 3 of the minutes are approved.
Yay.
Yay. All right, so you get to sign those, Michelle.
Well, next time.
Next time.
They don't print them until we approve them because if we change them, it'd be a waste of paper.
Okay. Is there, I don't know if I can see attendees. Are there any attendees out there?
Megan's there.
Oh, hi, Megan. Anyone online?
Who's that?
Jen said she's going to pop in, but she's not here yet.
Who's that yellow box? That's us.
That's
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got nothing in the gallery except, okay. So let us move forward. Were we, let's see, I'm trying to remember now. Weren't we gonna have set something up? Was that for Megan, or I thought that was for?
Yeah, well, basically, I told Jen we're going to talk first. I'm not sure why she's not on yet. I'm going to text her again.
All
So the
right,
idea was to,
allow Megan to
text
leave,
and talk
yeah.
at the same time.
All right, while she's doing that, let's move on to some additional public communications that we did have. We did receive
There
a
we go.
communication
There she is.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
on the Mouse Island zoning application. I looked at that and, well, I guess I'll throw it out there. Does anyone feel that there's a need for Conservation Commission input to the zoning P and Z?
This is Tom Olson. I attended the Planning and Zoning Commission where they discussed that, and I didn't see anything that we needed to weigh in on.
All right, any other input? I mean, I concur. I read through it and I went, and given we've had discussions on Mouse Island before, they're just trying to get some degree of control over versus there was no control technically before. All right, second item I had was the Connecticut College Spring follow-up discussion. Is Jen available?
Jen's here, so can we promote her to panel so she can talk to us? And can somebody put up the one pagers of the projects that we have in the agenda?
I do have that. Let's give me a second and I will bring that up. Oh,
Hi,
man.
Jen.
Hi, Michelle. Hello, amazing commission. How is everyone tonight?
We would rather be outside.
Yeah.
I think I can speak for everybody when I say that.
I think you can. Finally, the sun is out.
Okay, let me get to the.
So while Larry's bringing it up, so in the agenda package is the one pagers that are designed for our website. So each group, put together a one pager, and I, fixed them up a little bit, but so those are going to go on the website. So the question for tonight is, discussing what follow-up we might want to do based on the presentation. And I invited the people that were involved. Megan showed up, and so we will definitely talk about the two projects that were for Go Groton and what you think, if anything, would be the next step with those. But we also, in general, want to talk about, what do we want to present to the town, and when and how? So, so should I just kind of keep going?
Yeah, well, I brought it up. You should be able to see the play
Yes.
space.
Okay, so Megan, did you get a chance to look at the presentation? Okay, so let's talk about the play space, because that's the first one. Do you have any feedback that on what the? Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
You can pull up a chair too if you want.
You can even take one of the rolling chairs if you want.
That's even better.
Feel like one of the team.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, so general feedback, always appreciate the opportunity to get to work with students. I think providing students real world application is always, if that's something we can provide, I'm all about that. This same semester, we're also working with 2 students from University of Connecticut through the Climate Corps program. And some similarities in kind of how things went. I think it was interesting that the students that developed the backpack actually developed something tangible. Because I wasn't anticipating that. I thought they were going to kind of look at examples and make recommendations. So I thought it was really neat that, and surprising in a great way, that they actually produced something. The projects in general, and I have not gotten a chance to take a look too closely at the map. I know that there's more materials that the students have developed. I would be curious to see if there's longer reports, because the one pagers are just one page.
Yes, we do have full reports from them.
Yeah, I listened to the presentations as well. I'm curious if maybe there's some other things that we can pull out from the larger reports. For example, I know the students that were looking at the nature-based play space had talked to me at least about curriculum connections, and that was something they were really interested in.
Curriculum in the school, so that they would take
Yeah,
the kids
yes.
outside, right?
Yep, and I know I referred them over to Ben Moon with Groton Public Schools, and they spoke with him. So I would be curious to see if there's, like I said, other things that came out of their work that's not represented on the web pager and that they didn't.
So
have
can
time
we
to speak
tease
to.
out any other things that might be helpful to the town?
Correct.
So I guess if we're gonna say present, because what we have is we have a one slideshow. I still call them slideshows. That basically is all their presentations glommed together. And the intention that what I did last year, and I was just, is this what able to do this year, is to take that and sort of condense it so that it's a, less wordy, less like, but basically have the pieces that the town might be interested in, and then put that together to present possibly to the town.
And just to add to it too, Megan, I think you'll enjoy looking at the full reports, because a big part of the requirement is that they give us recommendations for the future, whether it be recommendations for the town or if other students were to pick up this project. That I don't think that Michelle was really thinking like you need to highlight that on your website as much as that's good internal information for you to all have to consider. So I think you'll find a lot more in the reports.
Right, and we can give, since you're so involved with this, Megan, we can give you the full reports
That'd be great.
from the students. Do you want all 6 or just the ones that were working on stuff that you were involved with?
Why not all 6?
Okay.
The rain garden one, we're actually going to be gearing up to do a rain garden focus project
Okay.
in the upcoming months. So I'd be happy to.
Okay, we can do that. That's easy enough to do. Yep.
Okay.
What I thought was interesting was the play space talked about the gardens, but then the gardens people talked about having gardens. It's like, well, could we have the community gardens at the school that has the spots that already do that, right? So kind of combine those two ideas together. So I think there's a lot of things there that you could possibly take the next step on.
Mhm.
But, okay, so Larry, just want to scroll through really quick. So this was the play space, and the pictures show those places that could be gardens, the trail, the public library one. So we need to talk about, okay, well, so we have a backpack. Do we give it to the library? Do they know what to do with it? How are we going to advertise it? Like, how do you, like, what do you do with it to make it actually usable by the public?
Right. Well, the good news is the library, the last time I emailed with them, which was probably March, they were about to be making 2 of their own nature backpacks available to the public. So it's great timing. This can get lumped into, I would think, any outreach they're doing around that availability. And now it's a third resource that can be checked out.
So I should just work with her to say, okay, here's the backpack. What do you want to do with it? Because I did print out, Jen actually printed out this is probably not the best physical backpack per se, but I happen to have it extra floating around in my house and I didn't need it. So, but these are the like the handouts that, so we put them in plastic, but they should probably be laminated that they could write on with markers or whatever.
Before we go
Yeah.
further, on here, it says Pequot Woods, Piquot, is that correct?
We fixed it. Jen fixed it.
Oh, it's on here fixed? Okay, okay.
Oh, we didn't fix it on there?
I don't know if that's a current document or whatever.
Oh,
Just like
it's PE, right?
It's PE, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we fixed it on there,
It's
but,
in one spot, but incorrect in the other on that page.
oh, okay, so we need to fix it there's one more spot on.
On the
okay.
one pager.
You know, those are probably, even though they're, I don't know if we want to get into details, but those are just those slip sheets. Those are good because they can be changed out, you know, if you go to trouble getting it all laminated,
Sure.
like that can be changed out if something
Yeah,
changed and wants to be.
yeah,
added
it's
to
also
it.
easier to get them ruined though, so it's up to,
Yeah.
but it's up to I mean, this is something
Yeah.
that the library is gonna have to,
Mhm.
it's like, I think it's really important that we not take over management of this backpack. So, so we
For
give
sure.
it to them
Yep.
and they figure out,
Yeah.
and we can give them the files that these came from, but I don't want to get into the business of being the one that
No,
has
no,
to
no.
deal with updating the pictures or whatever. However, something needs to happen, right? So in order for this to be useful, like, you know, someone needs to, like, I don't know, Ray, whether your committee, you know, whether you interact with anybody that uses the woods, would you, you know, be having them, you know, be recommending it to the families that, you know, do the walks? I mean, how do we, is there a way, or should we even bother trying to make this, get it into people's hands and get their feedback, because this may not be people friendly. We don't know.
2 thoughts. One is that there isn't anything on the Pequot boards, and we don't have the mechanisms to advertise, and it's town property. But 2 ways. One is back to the library and what they can do from their end. But the second recommendation would be with the Parks and Rec magazine. They put out quarterly or something like that.
Yeah.
And within that publication, there's flexibility on a page to add new information. So at one time, a number of years ago, Pequot Woods was down in membership, and we put a half-page ad in that magazine once or twice and filled our membership back up again. So it was a worthwhile endeavor to go through that way. That gets out to families,
It's out to every household in the town.
right? And I think that's already there. And it's a publication that hopefully people do look at to say what sorts of family activities there might be. And that would be a great way to set up something with the library to say, you can sign out the
Right.
backpacks to do this.
Or in Greater Groton or Go Groton, right?
What's that?
The websites too, same thing, right?
Yeah, you do it on the website.
Yeah, I mean, and the library and Parks and Rec both have 2 of the larger Instagram followings in the account and the town. So I think that if.
So we can
depending on
recommend
who
to the
takes the lead,
library
yes, we could
to
do that.
advertise it, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
but I love the
Right,
idea of
so,
it.
so the net of this is that the backpack portion, the details and the write-ups would go to the Pequot Board, the library, and Parks and Rec, with a recommendation that they pursue it, work together, advertise it, and the library would provide the specifics on it. So I think, Michelle, are you gonna coordinate the, let's call it the packages that we're gonna, as a result of this segment of the agenda to wind up with?
Right, so and that's why we're talking about this, is what
Right.
what do we want to do for follow-up? So the one thing, and we don't necessarily want to give, we will give you all of them, obviously, but we don't need to give everything to everybody. But I agree with this, in this particular case, Parks and Rec should get the report for both the backpack and the trails that they did, the trail stewardship one. We can give them the full report for that. And also the recommendation that they advertise the backpack. Well, and I would think the library would want to do all 3 backpacks, not just this one, right? They'd want to have all 3 advertised at Parks and Rec.
Okay. All right, so that would be this. So let's go to the next one.
Well, I just want to leave with one comment. Observation on my part is that when we looked at this one pager, and I thought it was interesting that the picture of plants that were put up there are all invasives, not natives.
Correct.
So it's.
But they're the easiest to find.
That's-
Oh,
I looked at that and said,
The,
"It
the
is."
other pages have natives, don't worry.
Find those bad guys.
What's that, Jen?
The other pages have natives. There's actually 4 pages that they have.
Right.
So there are natives.
Okay,
But similarly, Bray, I saw that and thought it could be, if space allowed, great to call that out and explain what an invasive is.
Like these are the bad guys, find the
Yeah.
bad guys and the good guys,
Right.
like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, very good. So we got a
Okay,
couple
so
actions like that.
next. Is there anything else, Megan, you can think of on those projects? Okay. So you're gonna scroll, Larry?
I did. Did it pop up?
We're still seeing the trail.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
man, I had put it on full page and evidently that didn't translate. How's that?
There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
So this is the Earth Day Expo, and I think I'm going to start real quick, but then I'll let Giselle add anything. But basically, we like it was a good, another success, and 2 students in the future is probably not enough. That we need to have 3 students on this project at least.
Apologize, I seem to have lost it.
Oops. So Giselle, do you have anything else that you can think? I mean, the only follow through is just to plan on doing it again next year, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, they want more people, more students, and it looks like that they were aiming to try and get it more out to the communities, more communities, so they want to advertise, they want to figure out ways how to advertise the Earth Day Expo to, even though it was a great turnout, I think.
So do you think we'd even go as far as 4 students and have them split up into groups that did different things? Do you think that would,
I would think that would be beneficial. They definitely got tasked with a lot, in my opinion. But they took it, and then of course, when the day happened, a whole bunch of things obviously didn't go as what they were planning, which happens at events sometimes, but they definitely were overwhelmed at some point, and I could understand that. But they did great. They did a great job, and it was fun.
so Kristen, what did you want
Just,
to add?
I wasn't there this year, but the 2
Wow.
prior years when we launched the whole thing. The point was those kids, they choose which project they want to work on. So if you only have 2 that choose they want the expo fair, then that's what you got, you know?
Yeah, I think we kind of though, and Jen, correct me, we didn't tell them to restrict it, but we kind of presented it as a 2 per,
Okay.
people.
Well,
get
I think
together
we
as
asked
a set
them,
of 2. So we didn't push it that way, but we kind of steered it that way.
well, I actually asked them, I don't know if you may not remember this, Michelle, but I said, for the past 2 years, it is, and they've been doing this since, with this partnership's been going on since the very first year of this expo. So it's actually our students that developed the social media accounts for all of this, right? And so it's historically has always been 3. And so I said, are you sure you want to do it with just 2? And they were like, we can handle it. So in the end, like as Giselle said, I think it, they did it. There's Will as the B and Kate pulled up on the screen. Thank you, Larry. And I think it, they did a tremendous job, but this is also, most of our students are over pointing. This is a course, you know, to be in our center, it's above and beyond their major. So this is another 2 extra, they take, you know, probably 4 or 5 credit classes for their regular stuff, but then they're also doing 2 additional seminars this semester as sophomores. And this is only one of the extra seminars that they're doing. So I really hesitate to give them any more responsibilities than has been happening, because I think them organizing all of the social media and all the vendors and all that, that's a lot for anybody, much less, you know, 2 students that are taking a lot of classes. So I'm totally open to the suggestion of, great, could we have, you know, 3 or even 4 do stuff and do more? But like Kristen said, you know, if the interest isn't there, you know, to do that, then I don't think it's right to push that on them. And I think we need to be mindful that these are students, these are not full-time, you know, volunteers. And so sometimes I think they'll agree to things because they don't want to let people down, but they're learning. It's project management. That's the whole point of all this. They're learning what they can and can't handle. And I just wanted to share one really quick, beautiful story. Will had shared with me that him and Kate really struggled whether they should have the climate anxiety counseling booth this year or not. But he said, because frankly, we both have a lot of climate anxiety. So we thought, how good are we going to be manning this booth? But in the end, they decided to do it, and they had such a beautiful experience. And Will shared how they realized that they didn't need to solve people's problems, right? Like they just needed to hold space and listen, and that they had this connection of anxiety about climate actually made it really, really beneficial. And lastly, I just wanted to share that this group did what the other 2 groups didn't think to do, which is one of their final deliverables was all the, you know, passwords for the social media accounts, all the how-to for other people, whether it be our students in the future or, you know, somebody else that ends up pitching in next year. I thought that was a really great deliverable, because putting on these things aren't easy. And then if you don't have a cheat sheet from last year, you kind of have to start over again. So hopefully it'll go even better next year, but I know they had a really good time.
All right. So thanks for that. And I agree with you. I think that trying to organize Earth Day itself is a significant project management task, and I wouldn't ask the students to do that. So that's for my 2 cents. So in terms of actions for this particular segment, I didn't see that we'd need to distribute it to anybody.
No.
Yeah,
Mm.
okay.
No, it's
I mean,
just about,
as long as
there's,
Jason has a copy, I would think.
Yes, yep. All right, community gardens.
community gardens, these guys, we didn't really know what to expect because, you know, it's just, they were going to do food security, and it's kind of cool what they ended up doing, I thought. And I really like the idea that, you know, knowing that, you know, Groton probably could use them, and there are ways to do it. It's just a matter of, does the town want to support that or not? And I especially liked that it overlapped with the play space, that, you know, you could do a beta test by using the raised beds that are already in the play space, have the students set it up, and, you know, whatever. I think there's possibilities there. But I don't know what the town, and Megan, I don't know if this is part of your purview or what the town would or wouldn't be doing in terms of creating community gardening of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, that falls under Parks and Recreation purview. I think Tom brought it up at your last meeting. There are 2 existing community garden spaces, one behind Human Services and one at the Noank Community Park. So I know the demand for those are always very robust, but you'd have to ask Parks and Rec if they.
So there's
their
their
needs.
community gardens as well, Parks and Rec is?
Correct. They manage the community garden program.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. So they get this one too then.
Yeah, yeah. I forget how many plots they have, several, and you rent them out on an annual basis.
Okay, so
Alright.
we need to have another meeting with Parks and Rec. I invited them, but they obviously didn't show up for this meeting, but we'll have to have a separate meeting with them to look at this projects that are specifically their stuff.
Yeah, and I will say too, just for awareness, Groton Public Schools has a really tremendous for the school program going with a hydroponic growing trailer and all sorts of, they are using some of the school properties, I believe, for cultivation already. So there might be additional ways to kind of.
Ways to
branch
expand that a
out.
little bit, or maybe have if the families want to keep doing it over the summer, because I'm guessing when something must happen to that in the summer. But that, but that wouldn't be the Parks and Rec side, that would be the Groton School side of it, that would be, so there's actually, we may need to have the groups all talk to each other about what could be done to
And this
expand.
might muddy it a little more, but Emma Rotner was class of 2016, I think, in Goodwin Nearing, and she did food court in New London and Groton. And then I believe she's one of the people that started a lot of the she got a number of grants for Groton Public Schools. So she actually is involved in a lot of the community gardens and in the schools having gardens. So there might be somebody, she was supposed to come talk to at one class, but she just was too busy with her schedule. But there might be actually somebody that kind of can connect all those dots with you all.
So we need to find, so can you connect with her and find out
Yeah.
would she be, like, if she'd be willing to meet with the different town people, like we could set something that was all of us. Maybe even, I
Absolutely.
hate to recommend a special meeting, but to have something that we could do to sort of see if there's more, because I could see neither the Parks and Rec nor school people necessarily want to take on another project. That's in addition to what they already do. But if there's something that would be a, net gain with very, not as much output, I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah, she's
So
the
Michelle,
magnet. I just looked her up. She's the magnet school coordinator at Groton Public Schools. So
So
Oh.
Megan, yeah,
Wait, who-
Michelle.
What's her
maybe-
name, Jen?
Emma Rotner, Rotner. She's amazing.
So Michelle, maybe the action here is to Parks and Recs and the magnet school, what the individual just mentioned, to send them the information and ask them the question, do you think it is
Right.
worthwhile too? And then let's see what they say.
Do you think what, Larry?
Oh, do they think that there is some, based upon what they saw, there's some future action, coordination, collaboration that should happen rather than trying to force a meeting? I'd
Right.
like to have them come back and say, oh, I'd like to meet with you, or I'd like to work with Parks and Rec, or vice versa.
Okay.
And I think that there already is some collaboration that goes around, especially for the free summer lunches.
Okay.
I believe that it is, some of the food is produced by the farm to school program, and then that goes into lunches that are distributed like at the library and such. So I would ask the question too of like what.
So maybe this is
existing
already happening
coordination
and we just
already
didn't know.
exists.
Yeah, maybe this is, but, or can, or should it be expanded, I guess would be the question then. It's like, are they interested in expanding based on the information that the students gathered, I guess?
And I will say that we did give them Emma's name at the beginning of this project and told them to reach out. And I think they reached out, but I don't know how much they actually spoke with her. But what we did this year, which I think started to help, was to give them a list of stakeholders to begin with that they should reach out with. But Michelle and I had met after the projects were passed in, but before this meeting, and really thought that we should give them, before they finalize their project, give them a week or two that they have to meet with, like you, Megan, or other people that are really, really crucial to their project planning, so that they are heading out of the gate in the right direction to begin with.
Right, and it's not just about meeting during the planning, it's meeting before spring break. It's because if they wait till after spring break to talk to people, it's almost too late to do anything with the information they get from the people they talk to. So
Right.
that was already one of our takeaways, is because we I to your point, I think it's really valuable for the students to have that connection with the town staff person that's actually interested in the work that they're doing and may be using it further down the line, but that interaction needs to come earlier.
And if I could also say, if you're encouraging them to meet earlier, if you could encourage them to reach back out if there's things that come up. So for the
Right.
nature-based, place-based example, right? I know they had questions about why was this school selected? that we could have provided more context,
Right.
but we didn't hear back from them. So I think just, encouraging them that this doesn't have to just be a one-time conversation.
Right.
And then we don't hear from you again. We're there if there's key points of information or things we can do to assist as they go along.
And I think that's really, that's again, I think an artifact of it, them doing the first contact after spring break. So Jen, what I'm thinking, obviously this is a new idea I'm just coming up with as we're talking, would be to have that initial conversation and almost have it, semi-required, assuming we have a town staff person that it fits with, or in the case of the Earth Day, I think they already met with Jason Bullfrant. But basically to have that initial meeting before spring break to help them finalize the plan, but to basically build into that, be maybe a week or two after spring break, to plan for another discussion that they can then say, well, here's what we're thinking, and get that and questions and get that feedback. And sometimes you don't have the questions until you start the conversation. So
Yeah, and I think what's new this year too with the projects is this is the first year that we've really incorporated people like you, Megan, or to our other town people. In the past, it's been only the people on the commission that were really working directly with the students. So the check-in points were your draft project proposal, your final project proposal, and then your update after spring break. So they might have been having conversations with the folks on the commission, but not with the town staff. And so I think maybe it'll be appropriate going forward, like you said, Michelle, to like add those people as official project contacts.
to actually
you're
plan
getting-
and to plan on, like, have the discussions in their plan, meet with the town staff this date, meet with the town staff, or talk to the town staff again this date, and to have that built in, plans don't always happen, but to have it built into the plan because we'd like to, and I personally would like to keep offering them projects that do in fact coordinate with this stuff that town's already doing. So I think, and I guess you guys can give me feedback on that. To me, having these kinds of projects where it does include the town staff that would then, want to use it afterward, I think is more valuable than just general ideas, right? Is that?
If you
maybe
actually want
with
to
that?
implement something in the real world, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Okay.
we'll see, we are obviously learning as we go along as well. So we'll just make that part of our process going forward, right, Jen?
Well, and obviously, if the town folks do want to continue to be involved with projects, I think they need to be, invited to when we have our first meeting and all that, because there's things that we've planned logistically that we haven't been including the,
Right.
the auxiliary people on. And so I think happy to do it, but I think it has to be a decision that the people working on the projects that everyone's comfortable with doing, because otherwise
Right,
I
and
don't
yes.
want to be seen as requiring the town to
No,
have.
well, and that's
have
on
meetings.
us actually on the commission when we put together the list of projects to check with the points of contact beforehand, telling them, hey, we're thinking about putting this project out. Are you, willing to be, a point of contact that connects with the students twice, like to basically give the heads up to the town staff that are involved that's what we're talking about, so that to expect one or two or even three groups of students to be trying, to get information from you twice at least, right? So does that make
And-
sense? So from the town staff representative, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think, clarification of the roles and requirements
Mhm.
was always helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, Megan, I was going to add too that I do have a document that I developed and I shared with the commission members that because they're the ones working directly with the students about roles and expectations. So we can certainly, I can take a
Yep.
look at that and adapt it to the town. But I think
Yes.
as long as we get from, you guys clarification about what level of involvement that you want, then we can speak to that and how we develop it.
Right, I think we could develop the plan to, have it, for those projects that involve town staff, here's what, you check with the town, like we need to, the process of checking with them, seeing what their involvement wants to be, and then incorporating that level of involvement into the plan for the students.
Because I don't know, like Megan, it would have been great. Like I didn't know that there would be that amount of town involvement. Because we would have invited you to the first meeting with the students if you, wanted to come as they were, and maybe it's not appropriate that you come to that meeting, but maybe it would have been good to know, like, hey, within 2 weeks of that meeting, these people are going to be reaching out if I want to work on them with this project.
Yeah, we'll just make sure we have that. And my suspicion is, Megan, you're probably going to be one of the main town people that is involved in these projects going forward, because the kind of, what you're in charge of is the kind of stuff they like to do, so.
Yeah, and I think, not to speak for everyone, it might vary. Maybe there's a much more clearly defined project and it doesn't require as much back and forth. But I think having that discussion up front of, are you willing to help the project through in order to get the best results for everyone,
Right.
something that's usable for us, something that is more streamlined for the students and that they know who to come for some of those questions, I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, great. This is awesome, because we just refining this as we go along every year, and I love how it's where it's heading. So cool. All right. And then we talked about the rain garden thing, and so we'll make sure that you get that information as well. And I think, and then the trail maintenance software is obviously a Parks and Rec thing, and we did talk with Parks and Rec ahead of time that we were planning on doing that, and they knew, in fact, they're the ones that suggested, they said, if we want, what can we do? So we had to Tom and Myra and I had a meeting with Tabitha and Mark, and so we definitely had, that was probably the most involved of the town staff ahead of time, was on the trails. Now what they're gonna do with it afterward, we haven't talked about that yet, but so, and I guess that's the level of detail that I planned to have in this discussion. Does anybody feel like we need to talk about anything else?
Well, just to put a quick summary here,
Okay,
I'm looking for the commission's approval to publish these 4, we'll fix if there's a spelling error, but these 4 pages on the conservation website, which
6.
then everyone can see.
it is
And
6.
Michelle's going to coordinate the detailed information only to the folks we've identified on a per section basis. So those 2, I got a third one, but let's say, does everyone agree I should publish the web pages? Because I'll send it to IT.
Yes, it's as long as if either you can correct the spelling of Pequot, or I will and resend it to you.
All right, I'm on the road. If it might be better if you just update
Okay.
it, if you had update it in your library, send that to me. I will then package it and get it to IT.
Okay, I
Okay.
can do that.
All right, so
So
that's
resend.
the 2. The third thing that we talked about was, do we want to put together a summary that we present to the town council that does a couple of things? One is obviously advertise the College Connection and the, the value of the town working with the students, but then also kind of seed recommendations to the town board about, these are the recommendations that we think you should pursue, and get with each of the departments to see what they're doing about it. Something along those lines. How does that sit with the commission?
Sounds kind of vague to me.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
value, what we're really asking from the town council perspective. I don't know if there's a specific action for anything here. Everything seems to be at the staff level, whether it's in planning or in Parks and Rec.
If something comes up to the town where they want something, a budgetary item, like, oh, we want to put budget for rain gardens, then you pull out these little nuggets and add them in there or something. So I don't know if you just plopped in their
All
lap.
right, well, I guess I said there was 2 parts to what I said. One was information, right, about the program. And the second part is recommendations as a result of that. So is there any interest in providing just an information update and indicating that any recommendations have already been provided to the departments? Or just let it go?
I would suggest wait and see what kind of feedback we get from the users. And if, because what we would do is say, not only what our recommendation was, but what the town staff is actually planning on doing with what we came up with, rather than what we think they would like. So
so
wait
we'll
and see,
table-
wait until, so it'll be months, because we need to get, together with Parks and Rec and the schools sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Larry, can I just clarify, is this part of what you're, just as far as informing the town council of what the commission is doing? That like, it's a little bit of PR for us, like, look, we're doing this outreach with local kids. Are you thinking along those lines, or getting an active participation in the, like, what's your goal?
Well, I mean, partly the goal was to, yes, that the Conservation Commission adds value to the town. Here's an example, right? One thing. We could do it in a yearly update, which would be one line item of an update that we do, right? Because we normally do an inventory update, we can kind of add this to it as an information package. The second thing would be is, as a result of meeting with the departments, as Michelle pointed out, are there some recommendations that need town council support going forward? And I don't have a problem with tabling a town council presentation until we get that feedback. And then the default would be when we do our yearly update to the town council, at a minimum, we would put this in as this is one of the items we accomplished in the year. Fair
Yeah,
enough?
I definitely agree that that's a great idea because this is in my opinion, and I'm not saying this is, I did it, but I'm spearheaded, but I think it's a really cool thing that we're doing with the school. So I think informing them that, hey, this is one of our value adds is a good idea.
You want to do it?
Do what?
The presentation to the town council?
No?
Who would be?
It's,
would-
it's one of, it's part of
we
Larry's
will- We will
presentation.
strong arm Michelle when the appropriate time comes to do that.
Anyway, so I agree with what we're kind of circling around to is let's do the first two things. Wait on the town council piece until we see what the results of the meeting with the staff is.
Correct.
Can I add two
Please.
cents that you didn't ask for?
Absolutely.
Speak. Yeah, I think my only thing that comes to mind that is staff projects, right? We're very strategic about how and when we bring certain decision points to council. I'm a little confused about that muddying waters if it's presented to them as if there's a recommendation that they need to provide input on that then is really for a separate
Right.
project that we're already on sort of an information rollout campaign. It's my only
Okay, so
thing.
you don't want to have them getting information about something two different ways.
Potentially.
Okay.
Wise council.
Okay, so
Understood.
more of a reason to table until we're sure what we're doing with it.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's fair, Megan.
If,
have
for
a
instance, on
problem
the
with
backpacks, just to see how the library is going to move ahead on it.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Any final thoughts, Jen?
Larry?
Yep. Oh, I was saying any final thoughts?
Oh, yes, I wanted to thank all of you, Megan, Giselle, Anne. I know Kristen, you've done a lot in the past, and of course, Michelle and all the other folks that have spent a lot of their time allowing our students who are only sophomores in college to have this amazing experience where they get to work with people with expertise and know-how. But it just means a lot to me that you take your time to work with them, and they get tremendous benefit from it. Often when I do their senior exit interviews, they'll say that this was one of their favorite things that they did because they got to try their hand at doing something that actually had real world impact, and to work with community partners was really special to them. So thank you very, very much. And Michelle, excited to continue working with you on making it better each year as we go. So thank you so much.
All right,
Thanks a
well,
lot, Jen. We appreciate your effort in this as well.
Yep, thank you. We like doing it and looking forward to 2026.
Sounds good. I can't believe it's already gonna be that.
I know,
Thank you.
I know. Okay,
Thanks, Jen.
Bye-bye.
all right. So moving on, we're into the section 4.
Thank you, Megan.
Yes.
We
My pleasure.
appreciate your input. That's really useful to hear your perspective on it is really important, though. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for participating, Megan.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Oh, section 4, report of chair. Let's see. Oh, so I had communication, and I guess events kind of overshadowed it. I reached out to John Reiner about Pleasant Valley and when the RFP would be posted. And it just got posted. I mean, it actually, we'll talk about it a little later. So I won't comment on it here. So that was, let's see, that was one of the chunks.
Bless you.
let's see, can we work with the manager? Okay, so, then the other one was, I provided recommendations on the TRBP, which we'll get to in time. We'll talk a little bit more about it. On recommendations, on their plan. And so I did forward mine. Tom provided his input, and we'll get to that in a bit. Now, I think for it's kind of strange because I think in the summer we kind of slow down a little bit, which almost seems counterintuitive because we're supposed to be the outside people. But
That's
there's
because
some-
we're the outside instead of here.
yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, we're outside instead of you. When I get to the report of commission members, Anne submitted a written report. So Deb, did that go out? Is that available as a handout or?
No, Dave just gave me a copy of it. I can certainly send it out and we can summarize it if you like.
All right, yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Do you want to take a whack at that or?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
So are you on to report of commission at this point?
Yes,
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Anne reports that she attended the Mystic River Alliance planning meeting on the 28th. And she also sent a summary of a number of bills that she's been following, and I believe all of you are as well. So SB 9, that's the one with the POCD requirements and resiliency requirements, that actually has passed the Senate and the House. She reports HB 5004 passed the House, and actually it passed the Senate over the weekend. That is a large bill with all kinds of housing and transportation and energy requirements. So we'll see if the governor signs it, and then we're going to go from there. She's also reporting on SB 4, which is an energy affordability, access, and accountability that seems to be stalled, and a reduction of single-use plastics and polystyrene waste, again, has not been advanced.
all right. Thank you. I guess we can't ask questions because Anne's not here.
There you go.
So we will move on to, oh, I'm sorry, Neil, maybe if you just provide a copy, I guess.
Yep, exactly. So we can
Okay.
do that tomorrow.
Super. All right, so let's go around the horn. Mr. Olson.
I've only got a couple items. One is that I've attended a couple of meetings with this Five Corners group over in the city, representing the Conservation Commission. This last one was on May 29th, where they held an open house, where they basically have the city, which is Sierra Patrick, and their consultant, this Beth Kermes, who's from Fuss and O'Neill in Providence. She's actually originally from the city of Groton, so she's very familiar with the layout of the town and a lot of the history and stuff, which is a big help for them putting this project together. But they've got now on the Greater Groton website, they've got a site, and they got another project. It's all up in the Greater Groton thing. So you can, if you want more information about it, in my next meeting, I'll be having a stakeholder meeting. They have one for the local people for design thing where they're trying to solicit more inputs as far as on where the flooding is and where the trees are, type of thing within the city in the Five Corners area in particular. That actually outlines in regard to what's with EB and stuff. And they also have a separate, EB hasn't shown up at any of the meetings yet, but they have reached out to them. And I've had a lot of discussions internal to electric boat as far as on different alternatives. I've given them some ideas as far as on how to approach electric boat, and they are setting a meeting up with them because they're a major player owning a lot of the parking lot space, and which is all causing the runoff that goes into the undersized MS4 piping that's then causing flooding to be, ejection type of flooding in some cases. So that's where they're working on things. And we also had a side discussion on the Stormwater Authority also. Town Councilor Rusk was at that meeting also, because she lives in the city. And she asked me a lot of questions about the Stormwater Authority and what my personal opinion was and stuff, which I relayed to her in regard to, the type of experiences there are, and I've provided her some additional backup information in regard to what the ordinance looks like in New London and that type of stuff. So more to follow in that whole area in the future. And then, like I said, they'll have on tomorrow night, they have at the Bill Library, they're gonna try to get local, neighbors to come over to them and do a little bit more detail workshop. And then I have a meeting on the 17th where all the major stakeholders will review how the program is progressing. And then tomorrow I have a BACWAC meeting. Right now, we're working with Michelle from Public Works, and she's trying to line up a second cleanup sometime in this fall. Good sponsorship through the Subaru people over in New London, because they've done these in the past, and she's trying to re-vector them to the BACWAC area. And more to follow as well. And also, the Mystic Aquarium could possibly be tied in with them, like they were this year with us. So those are two outside things I'm doing. So I've got,
and I assume we'll get the dam classifications under the open space inventory?
yeah, that's under that.
Okay, all right. Let's see, who's next? Giselle.
At the moment, I have nothing to report.
All right. Krista?
Kristen? Next, my next, Larry?
Yes, you're next.
Okay, so, Tom and I were looking into, pesticide ordinances around and,
It's under new business.
well, no, this is what I did as far as, oh, do I save it? I mean,
I'm just saying.
okay, do I save it for new business?
Okay, you could, yes, we can do that under new business.
Okay, and also just I met with GCA and they're very, very, very anxious to get their hands on a draft of the P O C D and just, so that's.
Aren't we all?
Who is it?
Yes.
To say they're not alone.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
All right, thank you. Bray?
At this portion, one item in the package was a couple of pictures in there, one about Cottrell's, and then the other one was a sign for Jonathan Jesse Wheeler. And the reason it's in the packet is that this all has to do with Pequot Woods and the development of the sign for Pequot Woods. The interest that the Conservation Commission has in this is Pequot Woods Board of Trustees was put together when the property was first formed in the town as open space. And as we know, that there are only two properties that the town owned as open space that have an overall sort of governing input. Pequot Woods was first formed, and its board was one of the earliest. It was 1972. And lots of and as they were putting together who the members ought to represent on the board, they pulled out all sorts of things. Head of Connecticut groups, people from the Arboretum at Connecticut College, et cetera, and the Conservation Commission. So I am the representative to the Pequot Woods. And the annual meeting was just held at the end of April. And two things to mention out of that meeting. One is this particular sign. So a year and a half, 2 years ago, I contacted Mystic River Historic Society and said that there is an old cellar foundation that's out there on the property. Is there anything interesting about it that we might be able to tell a little bit of a story? So if you're out walking in through the woods, this might be a destination and a stopping point with some local information. And Marilyn Comrie of the Historic Society just latched onto it, and off we went. And the end result was this lovely sign that they've made that right now is being put together, and Parks and Rec will be at some point soon actually putting the sign out at Pequot Woods. The at the time that the Mystic River Historic Society was pulling together the information and designing the sign, they also were working on Control. So when I asked for a copy, I got the copy of both. So that's why Control's on there. And if you live in Mystic and you're in the Mystic Fire District, you've been paying taxes to preserve Pequot Woods. I'm sorry, Control. So there's a little overlap interest, even though we're on the Groton side. It's if we're putting taxes into the fire district, it's going toward the final acquisition of that property. So the sign was to talk about the foundation that you can't see at the on the property. And in the one of the initial understandings when they were forming Pequot Woods and the Board of Trustees, and they were developing a philosophy, a management plan for the whole thing, they knew that there was a small clearing that was on the loop trail that had an old foundation. Very little at the time was known about that foundation. And in the early years that I started attending the Pequot Woods Board of Trustees meetings, Parks and Rec used to keep this particular clearing surrounded by large stone walls open. And you could see the foundation or part of it. And they would actively mow it once or twice during the summertime. So at that time, for about 20 years, 20 to 30 years, it was something that as you walk by, it was a little different than anywhere else on the property. And the thought was to have some sort of, this clearing was a place where people used to be able to picnic. It was a grassy area in amongst on the woods. And perhaps we could draw a little bit more interest to it again. So the outgrowth of that is they found information about the foundation, who probably was the last person to live there, and a little story about the gentleman who actually lived there. And they used to call it Jesse's house. And so on the sign, the background information about who the person actually was is from a diary of a 15-year-old girl who lived in Mystic and would walk through there, and her diary story about this homestead is on the plaque. The sad part of the whole thing is you can't see the foundation anymore because of the invasive, particularly the wild rose. And even in her, the young lady, Helen Mary Clark, at age 15, back in 1905 or whenever, she was penning her diary about visiting the Jesse Foundation. She talked about going through wild roses. So even 100 years ago, wild rose was still present and a problem. And it is a major problem at Pequot Woods because during the summertime, with the rain, it overwhelms the trails. There are several groupings of this, and it closes the trails down. So it's almost difficult to get through. At least you have to be single file. In the spring, Parks and Rec comes out and they open up the trails. It's great. But unfortunately, it closes down.
Stuff grows so fast.
And it grows so fast. So the question is, how do we approach perhaps of being able to reopen this whole area so that you could actually see this historic 1800s foundation? And here's a little storyboard about why it's there. That Parks and Rec right now doesn't have the manpower to keep it open. And which one other discussion point about the trail maintenance is that years ago, Pequot Woods Trail was a loop trail from Sandy Hollow Road. There was always the idea of having an extension off the loop trail to Route 1 so that you could go all the way down to the bottom of the property, if you will, north to south. Trail was designed and cut. And in the last few years, at the end of the trail where it comes down to Route 1, the entrance down there, that is totally closed off. By August, you can't get through it
With the rows again?
with the rows again. And it's a wet area. They love it. And the Parks and Recs just doesn't have the manpower at this point to keep it open. If a tree comes down across the trail, interrupting the passage through there, board members will walk through. Each board member takes a month and does trail walks through it. And it reports if anything, it needs to be addressed by Parks and Rec, and they come right out and they take care of it. But to do this next extra step, they're straight out with their own other work in the recreation department, maintaining lawns and golf courses and all that sort of thing. So it was decided that they're going to close the Route 1 entrance to the trail system and just let Mother Nature close it in and make it an alternative route, which has already been established, but not well marked. And we're going to try to negotiate behind some people's houses that, even though it's the town property, trying to Parks and Rec now are trying to address the people that live there to say, by the way, we're going to have to move the entranceway, and it's going to go close to your back lawn and to get into Pequot Woods, because we'd like to continue to have a Route 1 access point to the trail system for those that are down in that area of town. So just to see what the sign looks like, that's why it was included in your packet. That's why it's there. Thank you.
I mean, you need to see the foundation.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, this is one of those things where we've had numerous volunteer discussions, and Parks and Rec has a limitation what volunteers can do.
Right.
And it's at a point where you really need power equipment to come in.
Well, that was my thought, is like, they said no power equipment, so what I was thinking, Grace, you were saying that is there a photograph of when you could see the foundation that you could put with the sign? So like you could see like this is what it looked like when you can't see the foundation?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Because
I don't have.
because if I come up on that sign,
Right.
I'm like, what?
Exactly. Where do I look? That's
Right,
the-
so maybe if you had if they have a photograph from when you could see it, that might be helpful anyway. Just a
Right.
thought.
Right. That's it. Right. Right now, if you go there, you have no
It's a
idea.
beautiful sign that has virtually, I mean, it's a nice story, but it's like no meaning with what you can see.
Right. Exactly.
That's too bad.
So given the nature of the board versus the commission is that I would think we would follow the board's recommendation or direction, if any. So there was no actions coming out of the annual meeting for the Conservation Commission.
Correct.
All right. I will take that face value then. All right, Michelle.
Just
Other
the
than
college work.
college.
You heard that Jen and I were doing offline, coming up with a plan to continue improvement.
All right, very good. Oh, I guess that's it for
Yep,
Yeah,
I'm the
no.
last of the line. Yeah.
the last of the line, old business. Open space inventory. So we did get communications. I guess Tom is probably better positioned to talk about it, about from Lana in terms of getting the alignment of the classification of the parcels.
Yeah, this is Tom Olson. The CCOG was, remember, just put things in perspective here, is that they have identified 6 types of open space. So what we did, working with Noah, he added another column for CCOG classification.
Oh, good.
And then I saw differences between the two, and then they made recommendations. Here's how we are taking a look at things. Okay. And it went over to CCOG. They took a number of months to review it. They finally got back to me here on the 20th of May. Okay. with their, and they did, they updated theirs for about half the items. But the issue is, I'll give you the classic example, is where they refused to agree with us was on, Office of Planning and Development Services here. We had the big meeting and they came up and identified in the GI system what's accessible and non-accessible open spaces. Okay. And so when I saw a non-accessible open space, I said, it's not open for, it's not, it's not, it meets one of the classifications for their it'd be open space, but not for recreation. And so they classified most of these as recreation. Good example would be like at Groton Long Point, okay? Their conservation area is considered non-accessible by Office of Planning and Development, but by the CCOG, they think it is recreation because people are there recreating. When they go talk to the Groton Long Point Conservation Commission, it's open space, it's everybody can, you can go there. So that's the quandary we have here, is that the town definitions are not in sync with what the CCOG definitions are relative to recreation space, open spaces. So that's where we kind of are sitting here. And so what they said that they're going to be back, they're going to be conducting field visits here later this summer, and so hopefully they'll be taking a look at and talking to us in a little bit more detail, and they'll identify let me know when they're coming to town, so I could have more of a face-to-face meeting with them to see how we come through this quandary. But a lot of the spaces that that's where I would say the 90% of the stuff that's out of sync with each other is that type of situation. So I don't know how to handle that one, because we agreed with, that a lot of these spaces were not open to public access, but they think they are, and how to prove that as far as to get us in sync with them. So they did make some corrections, and things that aren't open space or really open space in individual parcels and all that kind of stuff. So I generally speaking, I'm not in a position to do any kind of further updates other than have their classifications, which they did update. And so we'll just have to make sure, working with Noah, but I'm not going to have to send Noah to take this interim. So I'm going to wait to see what we come off after this meeting sometime this summer, is where we are on this.
That
Right,
sounds great.
so the viewer under Noah has the latest from your perspective.
It has the the viewer currently has whatever day that the CCOG, that Noah entered it from CCOG, and CCOG has subsequently changed some designations, so they were out of sync by a little bit. But I didn't want to waste Noah's time, because
It could change again after the discussion.
yeah, it could just change again. Just give them one change.
Okay.
So we're in an interim position right now.
All right, fair enough.
I don't think this is not that high of a priority that people are looking at to combining.
They're just going to use that database to decide whether or not they're going to walk on the property.
Yeah. So
All right, other topics
that's all I had on space.
on
inventory.
on the inventory. All right. Let's see, that's a 5, section 8, open space planning. I didn't have anything there unless someone else has something under that topic. On the .3, the Groton 2035 plan. The one update I got is I did get the 24 results from SCARA. And give me 1 second. And what happened is, oh darn, I didn't have this quite teed up. So let me. All right. Now the net is that, interestingly enough, we actually had a reduction in tonnage, and I'll give you the actual numbers. So let me bring up the spreadsheet. Oh, darn. Sorry about that. Got into SharePoint, which I did not want. Waste disposal costs. Let me go into my local one. Oh, darn. There it is. Okay. So 2024, the Groton cost was 1.487 million, which is actually down from the 1.516 million. And the tonnage, and obviously the tonnage was down from 24.7 to 24.3 in essence. So even though we've been raising the flag that in the future, we expect to see a dramatic increase because of, I would say, individual recycling and conservation efforts, and I meant that in the broad conservation sense. We've been managing the costs. So that's a good sign, but it, we're kind of treading water, I guess would be my net on that. I'm trying to remember, did I send out that summary? Did I send out that spreadsheet, Deb?
I don't think so.
No, no. It'd
All
be
right.
nice if you could.
I will. I'm just because I just got it actually like 2 days ago. So bear with me. Let me find Zoom again. What the hell is
Is
that?
that the one we've been trying to get forever and ever, Larry?
Yes, I did finally get it. Right.
Good, that
Thank
was
you.
been like a
Thank you
year
from
in the
Dave.
making.
But that's my point. My point was I didn't know what to expect, and the thing was actually went down slightly. So I will send the spreadsheet. And Deb, I'll get it to, I guess I'll send it to Dave.
Yeah,
for-
that's
For
good.
distribution.
Yep.
To the Conservation Commission. So that's very recent news. Let's see. What else did I have there? The other thing that was included on 23.5 was, and I think it's in the agenda, is the Stanford Organic Ordinance Waste Management. Or their ordinance, more for information.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna be here.
I. So,
Didn't Dave say that they were supposed to, the consultants were gonna come here to talk to us about outreach or something?
so that's, that got.
Oh, that's
moved
next
along.
month.
Yeah.
That got
Oh,
moved
okay.
along. I'm sorry.
Because I
Yep,
thought it was just something, and then we were talking about how long it was gonna be because of having the college stuff and that at the same meeting, so,
It's me.
okay.
Yep, so that did get moved out a month. I'm sorry, I should have led with that earlier.
But that's a good thing.
Right,
Oh,
so
yeah, well,
it's
it worked out
not
fine.
POCD, but it's a separate project.
Right,
Yeah, next
right.
month.
Yep. All right, let's see.
In
That,
my mind, it's kind of connected.
Larry, I do have a question.
yes,
I've been getting, because I attended the open house, I've now been getting these emails about, please put any additional comments in the virtual open house. When I was talking to the consultants, I got the impression that there would be some kind of the general thing, but the only way you can make any type of feedback is through the survey. And how can I put in multiple surveys?
Sure, if you've got multiple things to say, absolutely.
But the other thing is that some of these questions when I go to the survey, it's like they're very specific at answering questions. They really don't give you any open-ended areas. To individual areas, that's what I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Can I talk about an open, where they give me an open area to give a complaint about or comment about? Does it have to be applicable to that
No,
area?
I think that's what you did on one of them, so. no,
Okay,
that's-
so I just want to make sure I'm doing that okay, so I come up with other things. Okay, that's why I wanted to ask the question.
Yep,
And,
yep.
Okay, so they have been feedback to you guys.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I wanted to know.
Absolutely.
Get some
And they're
feedback.
getting fed to Horsley Witten for analysis. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
all right, thank you. All right, budget support.
Can we go back for a second, Larry?
Oh, yep, go ahead.
I just.
No, this is we're on the agenda here.
I had in the agenda, the Connecticut Institute for Resiliency and Climate Adaptation. So I was posted about climate change for my portion for the Conservation Commission. And I thought that this summary, the paper that was put out that is in our packet, was a nice summary of Conservation Commission and natural resource resiliencies. I thought it would it'd be worth just having as a reminder, a number of the things we've already done or are doing, which is great. The one portion of it that for resiliency and climate impacts that has been a little hard of a target for me to put something together is that having been involved with other POCDs where you make recommendations for things to look at in the future, and once the POCD comes out, there's usually a checklist or a do list that then we can take a look at to see how all this was inputted, and then how they decided at the end for the next 10 years, here are some goals that we'd like to go and going forward. This one is a little different because we now have a resiliency department here with Megan, and a number of things that issues that I have for coastal resiliency, they're already starting to implement. And there's been some great discussions in the last 2 or 3 years. There's been the Mystic, downtown Mystic study that's come out of it. And they're talking about how to improve in the flooding problems with some of the streets, and some of the things that I've been talking about for years, all of a sudden now are on the boards to try to mitigate these.
That's a good thing, right?
That is a very good thing. So lots of things that I was thinking about elements to put in were already through the resiliency department. Megan's been doing a fabulous job of bringing these things to a head, bringing them out to the public, talking about them. And I'm assuming that so I have no idea at this point how much of that is going to be put into the new PLCD. So my one contribution at this point was the report that UConn did for something that people can read when they have a chance.
Yep, no, I
Thank you.
see that in there, yep.
It looks like really good information.
Yes,
Really good information.
yeah, it was well done, and that's it. Not reinvent the wheel. Share.
All right,
Good plan.
All
fair
said.
enough. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
All right, since we're going back, I forgot, we're gonna talk about the dam inventory. And I kind of missed it when we were in open space inventory, so, but that one, I think, Tom, you've got that, you had done that research and provided that information? Or just-
If you're talking about, we had an action item from the last meeting, and I didn't know where that was gonna be brought up as far as the dams. But what we did is that I was able to go in and at the last meeting, I reported I couldn't find anything online to get the gory details of where all these 35 dams are in Groton. I was able to, after more research, was able to find the website and get to, and so that's what I generated an Excel spreadsheet here. And it's now part of our work in conservation inventory database. So to back this stuff up. But bottom line from after reviewing all this stuff is that about half the dams really are not really either aren't part of our responsibilities because it belong to Groton Utilities and that type of stuff. So it's really then there were other ones that end up being privately owned. And then there's the municipal ones that the town owns, and everything appears to be being properly maintained. And then the other thing was, are there any of these that we should be considering taking a look at of for removal based on the guidance that we received from going to all, what the state's efforts are for fish migration and stuff. And at this point, I just don't know if it's worth going down, but it would be with the ones on Haley Brook would be the ones up in the northwest or northeast corner of the town. There's a couple of dams along that section that we could potentially, but I don't know if it's something that we want to take on the effort as a commission to be going forward and looking at. So I did the inventory, provided the information in here. That'd be the only thing at this point. I don't see any issues from a legal, us, being monitoring the dams or that are in any kind of crisis or whatever for relatively from our oversighting perspective, other than potentially the Haley Brook.
Can I make for one, I'd like to say thank you very much for that hard work, digging all that out.
Yeah.
That it's a great point about reviewing whether a dam should be removed or not. I just wonder, but follow up with a question. How many of these are actually large dams?
The only ones are with ground utilities. All these other ones would be small
Really, really
streams.
small, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder, so in the driest of the year, say end of August and September, I wonder how much if there's actually any spillover that's actually coming across some of these smaller ones.
I can tell you that on Haley, from having monitored Haley Brook over the years of doing, just running things, I've never seen it dry, at least since I've been on the commission here. So there is flow through on Haley Brook all year round. So for that way there is. Now, how much are these dams really effective? Most of them are causing, I would say, a wetland area behind them.
Right.
Okay, rather than a usable pond per se. I think there's only one or two on Haley that you could consider it that there's a broadening of the water, visible water, as opposed to just being into more of a wetland area. But there is always a constant flow, at least that I've seen over the last, the 6-7 years I've been on the commission here. But to answer your question.
Yep.
All right, well, given that the ones on Haley Brook, I assume are on private property?
It's a mostly, yeah. I think there's one on a town property.
Was there, I'm gonna ask Deb a question on this. There was a time when the water company, City Utilities, was looking at an alternative brook, and didn't they pick out Haley Brook as a possible?
Right, as a future water supply. I mean,
Right.
that's identified in their water supply plan. To my knowledge, they have not taken any steps towards.
Well, they do own
developing it.
one small parcel.
They do.
On Haley.
They do. And as a matter of fact, one actually was, as part of a subdivision open space requirement, was deeded to the city as opposed to the town. for
Yeah,
just those
exactly.
purposes.
That's how they got it.
But they have not done any kind of development to actually impound the water and pump it north.
There was already an old dam there on
Yep.
that particular parcel. It's one of the parcels that listed.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I didn't get any further action on this other than to echo what Bray said, which thanks for the work of understanding it. But we'll again table that, would be my recommendation. Any comments? All right. Let's see, where are we?
Budget support.
Budget support. I guess the budget process is moving on. Deb, you probably have the best update on that.
We're done with budget. That's my update.
That's
Yay.
Yeah, they're setting mill rates tomorrow night.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, great. So now I got to forecast how much more money I got to spend to pay the
Right.
town.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very good. Thanks, I think.
Well, yeah, everything went with no questions, both at the town
Yep.
council and the RTM. So
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It was an unusual year. It usually doesn't
Yeah, there
happen.
was a little public feedback on that too, though.
my personal recommendation, they followed, so I'm happy.
Exactly. They cited it, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
No.
There you go, Tom.
Very good. And thank you, Tom, for that recommendation input. All right, the next item is a vacant land review section. And there was late breaking news of the Pleasant Valley School. Now, did that go out or do we have to present it here, or how'd that wind up, Deb?
Right, Dave is gonna send the link out tomorrow to everyone. So pretty much all the information that anyone has on the Pleasant Valley School development sale is on the Greater Groton page. There's a project that's set up there, and it has all of the background information in preparation for tomorrow night's public hearing.
Yeah, which is the problem. So we haven't distributed the data, although I just took a gander of it, and I think Tom has taken a gander of it. I guess I could bring it up.
Yeah, that's just for information. I took a look at this information because once I saw it was on the agenda for the town council meeting tomorrow night, I think that we should be making a recommendation as a commission that I could either do verbally under the public hearing, or the general comment portion of the meeting. But what I did was I forwarded the information to Larry so he can bring it up on here. But I took a look at what the selected developer, this Spinnaker out of Norwalk, has proposed, and that's what Deb's finished is on the Greater Groton website. They basically are looking at this multiple, some 5 stories, some 2 stories, some 3-story building apartment complex. And basically it takes up the entire footprint of where the school is, plus a little bit more. But they intend to keep the playground that's currently there. And then also all the woodlands back. They really are, they're gonna have to cut some trees down, but it's relatively speaking a small amount. Okay. Which is one of the things we were looking for that went into the RFP as far as, trying to utilize what's there. My only recommendation, and I put a map, I kind of overlaid it so you can see where the lot lines are and stuff. So of the 16 acres, they're using about 5.5 for the apartment complex. So that still leaves over 10 acres there that are in a natural woodland, what's there today. And so one of the things that, from my viewpoint, is should we be asking on a go-forward basis to get a conservation and recreation easement placed on this property as part of the future negotiations, at least we enter in for discussion purposes for the non-utilized portion of the property, now that we understand what this developer is looking at, and if the town would hold that, and so that we could claim an extra 10 acres as an easement to add to our other 80 easements that we have on from the town's perspective to increase this from 200.
Yeah, that also bothered me because they talked in their RFP response about 20%, which would be what, 3 acres, versus what happened to the rest of the woodland area that Tom's mentioning. So you got another 8+ acres that kind of are silent. And so Tom's recommendation, which I guess I would put forward to the commission, about we should go in there tomorrow with Tom's recommendation that says it's not clear in the proposal, and this is what we recommend, and throw it out there and see what happens. So that's what we have discussed in the past.
Is that something that we could do? Like, once a developer's made a deal and agreement with the town?
Well, that's the whole thing.
Develop
The
the property,
developer
like-
hasn't come in with anything other than he's been selected
Okay.
based on
Right.
his conceptual.
There's
Right.
no
There's no deal.
negotiations have started.
Okay.
There's no purchase and sale.
This is like our
No-
last chance to offer, to
Yeah.
at least ask as a commission here for what we could, now that we see what this developer is conceptually looking at and seeing that he's only utilizing 6, let's say 6 out of 16 acres, why don't we get keep the rest of it forested?
Yeah, you'd like to hope that, sometimes as they do one thing and then they suddenly add on and do more.
Or
and, like,
expand in the future.
Right, or they
Right.
make it bigger than they say they're gonna make it, or they,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
So that's what I say,
That's
from
a
our,
concern.
just as the Conservation Commission, I think we should be recommending that we put something forward. Michelle's got a question.
Oh, nope, I have a motion. I move that we support Tom and Larry in going to that meeting and presenting that idea.
Second.
All right, so let's open it for discussion. I think I think there's two parts of our input. First of all, is I thought that assuming they limit it to what they presented, it actually seemed like a pretty reasonable approach to I don't want to say urbanization, but use of that property for housing, all right? They seemed to go out of their way to try and blend it in a little bit. Plus, if you look at where it's situated, where they put the housing was more closer on the industrial side, because across the street, there's other thing. On the housing side, you got those trees, which is what Tom was talking about, that band of trees that separates this development area from the residential single-family home area. So I thought that looked pretty good, but to Tom's point, there's nothing to protect that in the future that they would wipe that all out and put in another whole bunch of buildings. So I support the motion on the floor. I am in New Jersey and I won't be back till Thursday. So I already asked Tom, could he represent us? Because I am unable to, but we do want to go in with the full voice of the commission as a result of this motion. Let me throw it open to the floor.
I have one question, and that is looking at the apartment complex at the school close to I-95, top of Walker Hill. When you drive by, say on 95, it's a moonscape with tall buildings on it. And when we were talking about that development of school to apartments, there was going to be trees and trails and so forth. And now it seems like,
No, and there are, you can't see it from the highway, certainly.
Oh,
but
okay.
Definitely down behind the school, there'll also be a public access easement to those trails and the playscape and the dog park. Once it's all done.
are they replanting trees to make this?
No,
Or
they did
there's,
not take them down.
oh, they didn't, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you just can't see it.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
in thinking about the Pleasant Valley Road, talking with Tom's referring that in their building, they're talking about a smaller portion of it, but I could see the construction site just
Yeah.
going out, so they have access all the way around.
Better if they go.
There's a couple of things
But they do.
actually with that design. I mean, the sketch that's part of the project assumes that they will get a variance for height. So that they will be able to limit the footprint by going up. It's not a given, right?
Yep.
And then, when you all suggest a conservation easement, just recognize that there's no real plan yet.
Mhm.
So just ask them to include it as part of their negotiations,
Negotiations,
just
right.
like you said.
Yeah.
Right. That's what
Yeah.
that's what the motion is in
Yeah.
essence.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we allow 5-story buildings?
Not in that zone, no.
Oh, okay, and
Well, to me, that's a great trade-off, conservation easement for the relaxing
Yeah.
of the variance of the height
Environment.
restriction.
Yeah, just the variance, you have to show a hardship. It's not a trade-off. Yeah.
Isn't some of
So,
that
but-
land back there, I mean, I don't know the property, but isn't some of it sort of rocky and not super great for development anyway? And that's
With
probably why
everything
those
in
trees are
Groton
there.
is like that these days, yeah.
But not to say you can't blast.
Yeah, it's exactly right. That's right.
So having the Conservation Commission breathing down your neck isn't a hardship?
I think there are local environmental groups who also are strong and supportive of
Absolutely.
preserving those trees and,
Mhm.
that they
Yeah.
can activate and come to meetings. It might be easier just to kind of negotiate it ahead of time.
Yeah. In that area too.
All right, any other comments? So we're ready to vote on the motion?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, could you reread the motion, Deb?
Little all over the place. But to have the Conservation Commission submit comments to the town council regarding adding a conservation and recreation easement as part of the negotiations on the undeveloped portions of the site.
Well, that's way better than what I
Wait,
said.
Could we also the percentage of acreage, because because you said something like a 4 or 5 acre footprint of building, because if you
I
just
think-
kind of vague term.
But until there's a real development
Right.
plan, this is not engineered,
Right,
this
right,
is
right.
not.
Yeah,
engineered.
I would,
Very
I agree
difficult.
with,
Yeah.
the way I do it, I actually have the conservation easement drafted already, okay? Took the words off from the sample one that the state does for all the other parcels, all the OSWA grants. And all they do is they just say you're gonna have this, but it'd be per the Schedule A. And there's a schedule
Right,
that you would
no
develop
And that's where you put the
Exactly.
details.
for the
Exactly.
details, how much
Right.
acreage, and
Exactly.
actually it's the survey results, okay? That's how that's taken care of.
I agree with Deb's interpretation of my motion.
All in favor?
Thank you, Tom.
Aye, all right, so that's a unanimous, well, with the not attending by Ann. And so Tom will represent the commission as a formal input to the town council.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll write up a formal statement and just read it for tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
Now that I know what we got agreement here. I didn't go all that way. I'll
Well,
have the
that's great,
drafted.
that's why we wanted it on the agenda. All right,
We appreciate your efforts on this.
all right, 8.6, well, we've done that, the Connecticut College project.
6.6 is done. I just have to do the follow-up.
Okay, and .7 was open space stewardship. I didn't have anything to add there. But other than, do we have a follow-up with Parks and Rec as a result of the discussions we've been having and the result of the College project completion?
Yeah, I invited them tonight. They didn't show up, so we're gonna have to do a separate meeting with them, yes.
All right, could I ask then as an action, and I know this is the season, they're doing a lot of work right now, but I think we should have a follow-up with them on a variety of topics. Probably, let's see, this is June, certainly within the next 90 days. Is that fair?
Do you want to give me the list? So we can,
The list of
yes.
activity, well, is we need to follow up on the the status of the execution of the stewardship plan,
Right. The
right?
stewardship handbook, yep.
The pilot program of the COP property and the use based upon the college analysis, what's their direction or what's their decision on the software there? And then to start to talk about actually executing a volunteer program using those two vehicles, to go forward. I think that's what's open. I mean, there's other few things lying
Yeah.
around. But I think those are the three big ones. Do you have other ones that?
Well, yeah, to me, yeah, in my mind, all that's related to what we're talking about with the stewardship and volunteers and stuff, and how to go forward with that, so,
Right.
yes. So you're thinking, because I could include that request for a meeting in with my email to them sending the report from the students, and so so should I say like sometime between now and September?
Yeah, I would say in the next 90 days or what, pick the appropriate duration,
All
but
right,
not more than that.
Right.
To be able to review, what we just sent you and, the other activities that we've been working on
and
together.
you're right, the related issues, which are those other things.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else on stewardship? Let's see, where am I here? All right, so the next two is, one is outreach. I don't have anything on that. Does anyone have any?
Well, the only thing that was, as Tom Olson, the only thing it was in the package was that Thames River Basin I talked about this last month, but it was untimely, didn't get into the package. That's why it's included here.
Okay,
And I haven't heard any more from them this month.
so there's nothing new. It's just
Nothing
that
new.
just
This is all,
following up on the discussion
But
from last
but
month.
I did tell them that we would just be a member instead of a
Okay.
convener.
Perfect.
Yep.
Good job.
And I'll just
Uh,
reiterate, next month, Horsley Witten will be here to discuss more to the community.
Okay.
So
When you say
Yep.
here, what do you mean here?
literally,
Our meeting.
At this meeting?
at the meeting,
Okay,
it will be a 30-minute agenda item.
Okay.
So, yeah. Frankly, I don't know if they're actually going to be here in person or in Zoom, but they will be at the meeting.
Okay.
Right, and that's the one where we had talked about having, how do we, well, one of the topics, what the key topic that they wanted was, how do they better involve the community,
Right.
right? And so the ideas of doing that, and I think we talked about that at the last meeting, so rather than this meeting, it's gonna be the next meeting.
Yep.
So,
Thank you for clearing that confusion up in my mind.
okay. Tree Advisory Board,
Hmm.
that'd be our tree
So-
person.
Mhm.
On my end, Jeff Church, he is a busy guy, so I will be postponing him coming to us. It sounds like we're gonna be busy as well, next couple meetings. I'd say probably August, September, I'm gonna reach out to him for him to come, but he is busy during the summer, so that's that. And then the CT tree action plan, I have gotten no responses. I've replied, emailed multiple folks in that area and CT Deep, and I've gotten nothing. So if anyone has any connections, I would love to, get them, but I'm kind of at my wit's end, and I also don't want to feel like I'm overbearing and on them as well.
All right, so let me ask Deb, I know the last we went around the horn on the recommendations from that was went to the town manager. We provided, from the Conservation Commission point of view, we had let's say, a difference of opinion, an alternate proposal to Parks and Rec, and then it's been silent. Do you have any idea of where that is?
Right, so the plan has been presented to the town council. Apparently, the town council also had some changes they wanted made. Those haven't been done yet, so it hasn't gone back for adoption yet. I don't know when Mark Berry is gonna bring it back.
Do we, let's see, so what meeting did the town council, so that we can go review their
I'll get it for you. I don't have the date.
It's a while ago.
Yeah, it was.
oh, when it was?
I think it was back in September.
Wow.
That's where I would start.
That long ago?
Yes.
Oh, man. All right, I'm just making a note to myself on that. All right, because that slipped through the cracks a little bit. We had an item under new business. We talked about, did we want to talk about pesticides and fertilizers? And we left some time for this meeting to have that discussion. There's some information in the agenda on that. So who would like to kick that discussion off?
Well, I'm the guy that brought this up at the last meeting, and so I did do the research, and this is where I came up with the, that there is, state regulations, that's why they were included in your packet here in regard, but it's all based at the commercial level rather than at the individual homeowner level. And then the other thing was that the town of Stamford, I did include they did do something. They went out, because the question was asked, well, are any other towns doing anything? Well, the only thing I could find was the town of Stamford. And they basically said in their ordinance is basically taking a look at it and saying that it's not that the town as a municipality will cut back on all the pesticides and fertilizers. So so basically it's a directive to the Public Works and the Parks and Rec and the Board of Ed folks as far as on what they can and can't use. And so it's a little different approach. It's not going after the individual homeowners. It's not an approach of going after, any of the businesses selling the stuff in the town. So, you know, there's different ways of handling it, I guess. But that's what I did come up with as far as to get some additional information and food for thought. Is because
Right.
if you remember last time we brought this up because it says we looked at, you know, as a person, as a individual town pushing the plastics bans and stuff, and we were very successful with that. Should this be our next effort as another to get to do more than what's been the minimum required by the state currently? So that's
Yeah.
why these two were added, that for research I did.
I would
Thank you,
ask,
Tom.
ask a question about, those folks who, do residential spraying. And I certainly have neighbors that there, folks are out there clouding their yard with spray, at least once a month. And I have no idea what's in it. And I don't know, and you read the name of the company on the side of the truck and you go look and you say, okay, we can mosquito protection. We've got the solution for you. And you got to look and say, okay, what are you actually applying? And there's no information whatsoever. And I
Yeah,
guess that's just maybe the standard fare, but with municipals, for instance, if we have questions about the golf course, the Shinnecock Golf Course.
Yeah,
the
that's a good
Parks and
example.
Rec, we had talked to the Conservation Commission, talked to Parks and Recs many years ago about a piece of property at one corner that's a wetland. It was never built on in the neighborhood and what might be going in there. And we never came to a final decision about that because Parks and Rec said, well, we're following all of the state requirements and we're only allowed to put down this, and this. Didn't really answer the question, but we also didn't have any way of having it sampled. It's not like we can run out to grab a cup full of water in the wetland and send it out to a lab somewhere. So that's sort of the frustrations that I've seen over time. And all the regs that I understand from the state, I thank you for sending that, very detailed, but it doesn't go into the chemistry at all. Other than some things that you can't apply. And how do we know, for instance, in the residential, they're not being slipped in because they're more effective?
Yeah, I did some looking at this and I looked at a lot of different sites and it's bedlam out there, to put it mildly. I mean, there's regulations on certain chemicals and every state has different regs, in municipalities have different regs within the states. And I did put together a little document of a few, I guess I could send it to, sure, you guys can send it around. But it's just it is a morass. I did an AI just for kind of interest, an AI overview of Connecticut. And there are certain towns that have restrictions, and a lot of places are restricting what you can use at a school, what you can use at a nursing home, what you can use in a park, a play area. There are some definite restrictions around about that, and there's certain chemicals that are being, I think, much more targeted to be eliminated, because they're more hazardous and stuff. But we got a little mention here. Stamford, Norwalk, Middletown, and Woodbridge are who have policies restricting or banning use on public lands. Groton, Waterford, and Chester, along with Essex, have restricted use of non-organic pesticides, but none of it impacts private property. And I looked into California a little bit because they're usually ahead of the game, but they are so heavily agricultural as a state. So I think they're getting, there's a lot of pushback. So it's like, I think if we're gonna look, we need to like, what are we actually looking at?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of.
Oh, the only thing I did find is that France has done a big time,
Yeah.
You know, it's almost a blanket thing.
Yeah, they call it Lobby's Law, LABBE,
Yeah.
the guy who, but even they're now saying, now that was put in a while ago, that still, it's still
not working.
problematic
Yeah.
with the amount of toxins that are in the
Yeah.
environment. But they're way ahead of the game. I think they're in my, France ban the use of phytosanitary products. Those are products that protect crops. Prohibition on use in all spaces, whether private or public or collective usage. So France is really out there. So anyway, this is just a random little start. I'll send it to Dave.
So I mean, I recall I went to Parks and Rec on Pequannock Park down, and they said they switched to all organic fertilizers, et cetera. Because I talked about safe for children and dogs, and so I don't know, Deb, is there something that from Parks and Recs and Public Works on pesticides and fertilizers?
So I know they limit the types of chemicals that they use. I'll see if I can get that for you guys.
Yeah, so I think we're already doing that. How much? I don't know. So I think the low hanging fruit would certainly be town properties. So let's find out what they're doing before we make any effort to do any restrictions. I think they're partly there, or maybe all over there. I don't know. So that'd be really helpful, Deb, if we found out what
Okay.
they're doing.
Yeah, I'm going to include the schools as well because I know they have restrictions on what they
Good
put on
point.
the
Yep.
fields. Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so that provides action there. So next is report of staff. That's to you, Deb.
Okay, so I just want to give you a brief update on where we are with the POCD schedule. Okay. I think as you all know, this project is sort of divided into 3 parts. Baseline report, and then the actual plan, and then the implementation plan. So we're just finishing up the baseline report that should be posted on the Greater Groton site by the end of the week. That is a description of where we are now. From the Groton Open House and the survey, Horsley Witten next week will start developing a white paper on what we've heard. What they've heard are the main topics that will be discussed with the the PCC on June 30th, I believe, to start actually working on the plan, which is why no one has seen the plan, because we've only just finished phase 1 of this. Plan is next.
Thank you, Deb.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, on that point, we had a kickoff meeting with I guess we're calling it tri-commissions. Economic development, P and Z and us. Is there something to schedule where that tri-commission reconvenes for any review updates, information gathering, et cetera?
Not yet, but we can talk about that when we actually get a bit further into development of the plan, to use you all as a sounding board.
Well, that has been our suggestion.
Yep. Yep,
So,
but as you know, we're also, really pushing hard to get
Yep.
voices that we have not heard involved in this project.
Understand.
So it won't just be commissioners, it will be the public as well.
I have no problem with that.
As well it should be.
Yeah, great.
So on the next phase, you're going to have, again, throughout let's say the winter, the colder months, workshops on the
With
on the second
planning and
phase.
zoning commission, yeah, for sure, to really start working on the plan. That's right. Out of that will probably come a series of mini surveys, if
Yeah.
there are contentious things, to try to gauge the public's, opinion on things that might be controversial.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Any other new business from the commission?
Seeing none, I move we adjourn.
It's amazing how we time this stuff to 2 hours every damn month. Michelle keeps me honest. Is there a second?
second.
Many.
Multiple.
seconds.
Without objections, I call the motion passes and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
And one last thing, I'm sorry, Deb. Just some
Okay.
feedback on the audio. I know there was an upgrade to the system. This is my first chance to be on this end of the Zoom call. The clarity of audio is very good. So the kudos
Great.
to the staff on that.
Good. I'll
to
pass
know.
it along. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.